Okay, thanks. I'd like to call tonight's June 14th meeting of the Brainerd School Board to order, and we will start with roll call.
Charles Blacklands.
Here.
Kevin Boyles.
Here.
Tom Hageland.
Here.
Ruth Nelson.
Here.
Bob Nystrom.
Here.
Jana Shogren. Here. All present.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we start the meeting, or actually, I have to make an announcement. So this meeting is still being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.021, meetings by telephone or other electronic means. Thankfully, most people are now coming to the meetings. We welcome you. This meeting is being recorded. Access to the recording will be made available on the school district's website as soon as is reasonably possible. Next, MSBA received word from the Minnesota Department of Education that the COVID-19 mask requirement no longer applies to school board meetings. The mask requirement for Minnesota schools pursuant to the Safe Learning Plan is for during the school day or school activities. The Brainerd School Board is choosing to follow the Minnesota Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, strongly recommending that anyone who is not fully vaccinated continue to wear face coverings and social distance while attending indoor meetings. People who are fully vaccinated are not required to wear face coverings indoors or outdoors. Next, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Boyles to approve the agenda as amended. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion passes. Next to Superintendent Larson on district recognitions.
Thank you very much. I want to begin tonight by congratulating the Brainerd Warrior Girls softball team for being the Central Lakes Conference champions. Congratulations also to the Warrior Golf team players qualifying for the Minnesota State High School League State Tournament. Eric Stokesen, Izzy Olson, Anna Krager, Katie Foley. The state tournament is June 15th and 16th, 2021 at Bunker Hills Golf Course. And they had a send-off for the golf team this morning at 6:45, so good luck to them. Congratulations also to the Warrior Boys tennis player Matthew Morgan for qualifying for the Minnesota State High School League State Tournament. That state tournament for tennis was June 8th through the 11th at the Prior Lake High School. Thank you also to everyone who attended the Gitche Zeebe Center for the Arts grand opening and dedication on Wednesday, May 26, 2021. And that's it.
Thank you.
That's it. Yep.
Next, we're in the public input part of our meeting. We welcome anyone that would like to come up and speak to the board. Just a few comments. The school board will enforce a 3-minute limit on each person speaking. During the public comment session, complaints or allegations against students or employees may not be discussed due to privacy. Complaints or allegations must be submitted in writing to Superintendent Larson.
Thank you. I'm Gene Getker. I was here about a month ago, and it was to do with the critical race theory. And I had seen so much stuff on TV, I was a little concerned and wanted more information. Well, I was promised that someone would get back to me about a month ago, and if I was holding my breath, I would be still holding my breath. But I did see that you had, on 26th, I think it was, you had a training session for teachers that you had a speaker that you ended up canceling. And I read the article in the paper, and I'm still not satisfied with that. I think, that program got canceled. In reading the fine print, or between the different things in the fine print, it seems like, sure, you canceled it, but it sounds like it's gonna be slipped in later on anyway. And I'm kind of curious to know where everybody stands on that. Because I just heard before I came about a meeting in New Jersey where they had 3,000 people sign a recall of school board people. So it's flying all over the country, opposition. And I would like to know what everybody, I have to get to another meeting, so.
Sure.
I'd like to know what everybody's stand is on it. Florida actually banned it. So if you could tell me what your position is, do you favor a ban, or are you in favor of the critical race theory program, or?
Right now, we're not here to comment. We're here to hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Jean, what is your email address? And
My address?
Your email address.
Gene@gedker.com. But
we all know that now, so we'll.
I think a lot of this is, these kinds of meetings, you don't have to talk, answer any questions, and it's a way to get out of talking to the public. So I'm not sure I like the setup, but I have to get to another meeting by 7, about 10, 15 miles away, so I'm gonna head out, but I will certainly be interested in hearing about it. Now, I'm over 80, so and my oldest son is 60, so I don't have any kids myself in school, but I have grandchildren, and I'm concerned for them. And I think the public better get alarmed like they are around the country. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. What's that? What was this? Is there anyone else?
Yeah,
Jean
right
at
here.
getco.com.
Is this on?
You know how to spell it?
I'm not sure. It is on.
Put together a response.
Good evening. My name is Mark Olson. I've lived in Brainerd for 46 years. Worked at Hardware Hank for 10 years. 20 years I managed the Brainerd Civic Center. 10 years or 15 years I worked for the city of Brainerd. I'm going to say a prayer. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, I ask you to open the ears and the eyes of people and bind up all the evil forces of darkness that are trying to inhibit your word. In Jesus' name. I'm here for the same reason Gene's talking about. I'm here to speak on the ideology, the subject, the religion that is being pushed on our children of all ages. This is in schools around the country and now has found its way to Brainerd. I'm not surprised. This has become known to the public by an article in the Brainerd Dispatch on the 26th. Gene's already talked about that. There are so many questions I have along with numerous people in the community. The topic obviously is critical race theory. Do the board members and the administration even know what it is? If not, why not? Do you know why it took the community to rise up, to push back on something that was done to stop a speaker, a trainer, to indoctrinate our kids? Mr. Chairman, you made a statement. You've never seen so many calls or emails, if you got emails, and since 2007. I remember when I ran in 2006. Right, Bob?
Right.
Okay. Although in that statement, you said the administration canceled it. Why is that? Same question Gene has. Why not the board?
We do not pick the speakers. That is.
Yeah, I understand. I read it. But the board is in charge. The board is in charge, not the administration. And you're the people we're going to hold accountable. And we are going to hold you accountable.
I'm sure you are.
I'm here to tell you, we're going to hold you accountable. Remember the words of Martin Luther King. What did he say? Judge a person not by the color of his skin, critical race theory, but by the content of his character. This pablum being pushed has a very evil backing. I ask you to check your history. It is called the Color Revolution. You should all know that. which came from the Communist Manifesto. Check it out. But we need to go by the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Do we teach that? Is it a requirement in our schools, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence? If not, why not? Here's part of it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, the government is instituted among men, deriving their just power from the consent of the governed. Who's the governed? We're the governed. We the people. I have one more answer for you. Now, I've already given you one, the Constitution. Here's the other answer. What did Jesus say? He said, with these two commandments you've accomplished everything. Love the Lord thy God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Not critical race theory. And as Jean said in the article, there were words, buzzwords being spoken, diversity, cultural competency. Come on, guys. Teach the 3 R's. That's what you're designed to do. Teach the 3 R's, because we're going to hold you accountable. Thank you for listening.
Doug? Come on up.
Sorry, had an emergency burial at the cemetery. Anyway, Doug Kern, and one of the concerns, we just had a meeting here just, what was that, last week or whatever? There was Monday night, a week ago tonight. One of the concerns that the people had is, I really believe that in equality and equity are two different words. They're two different. Equality is where we all have the same. We have the same opportunities. We have the same. Everybody has the same opportunities. Equality and equity. Equity is where you want the same outcome, no matter what the cost, no matter if you have to raise one person up or another one down. Knowing that there's an equity board that you guys just put in place, the equity board to me, on how are you going to run it or who's going to be on it? I know that you two are on it. I know with the equity board, the thing that concerns me is who's going to determine what's equitable, because equality means the same. Equity does not mean the same word. On the equity board, Timothy Lensmeyer, that was supposed to be coming on the 26th, as far as I understand, he was supposed to be like a liaison for the equity board. And the concern that I have is he still coming next year to be a liaison to oversee it? Or is that just the equity board itself? Or are they hiring this man to come and take care of what's equitable, what's not? Looking at his profile, it's like, oh my God. It's like, it is not equality, it's equity. And so that's where everybody's concerned. They're really, really concerned about this equity board because it's not the same as equality. So, thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else? Okay, come on up.
I didn't have anything planned, and I didn't sign up to speak, but I will say something. And in my day, CRT meant cathode ray tube. It was the thing in a TV, the big. So when I hear CRT, that's what pops into my head. But the CRT these days, I mean, that's demonic. That is crazy. And so I just feel that, I don't know if we're going to get anywhere with this, but I will be back. I am here to dump hot coals on all your heads. And that's not a mean thing. That's I don't know how many of you read the Bible, but in the Bible it talks about that. And if you are wrong and if you are on the wrong side, it's gonna hurt. If you're on the good side, it doesn't hurt a bit. Jesus is my Lord. I pray for all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you introduce yourself? And then we should have you fill out one of those cards. Maybe Heidi, could you get
Okay,
them?
yep, my name's Andrew Dunlap. I grew up in Brainerd. I know Bob Nystrom. I know exactly how old you are because we went to
Wow.
high school together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, I haven't seen you since high school.
I know, I haven't seen you either. But yeah, I've always been here. I knew you were around. You know, I'm not a public speaker. I don't get out. I've never been to a school board meeting. I've worked at the airport real quietly, you know, all my adult life. I went to one commission meeting like 30 years ago. And then when and it was at the request of my boss. And when I went to that commission meeting, all of a sudden I realized this is not my thing. These people are making decisions about the airport and they don't have a clue what an airplane is. So I thought, let me out of here. And I've never been involved in any politics or any meetings or anything. But the way the world is going the last couple of years, you know, the Lord says, get busy. Here I am.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes for the regular board meeting of May 24th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hegland, second by Director Blacklance. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Next, the consent calendar, and hopefully you've had a chance to look at that. We do have something special on that. Well, we have a couple things, but is Corey in the room?
Yeah, she is.
Corey, do you want to come up here? So the people in the audience, well, Sue, you know Corey very well. In the consent calendar, Corey, she had gotten her superintendent's license, and you're going to be moving to southern Minnesota. Can you tell us about the community?
I will be the superintendent of Martin County West Public Schools.
In what town is that?
Sherburne, Tremont, and Welcome.
Okay. Yeah, we should clap. Congratulations. Yeah.
See the view on that side, I guess.
I don't know if we can pass this consent calendar. So, okay.
Well, I will reluctantly make a motion to pass the consent
Okay.
calendar.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Director Sjogren, second by Director Nelson to approve the consent calendar as presented. Any discussion?
I did have one question, if I could, under the non-certified hires. I just noticed there were a lot of new positions entitled enrichment instructor / coach. Are those mostly coach positions or what those are? There were just several new ones.
I actually called Marcy on that today because I was questioning it too, and it's community ed positions that didn't used to go through the consent calendar that are now going through because of some new process.
We actually processed.
Okay.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. And I just have to say one final thing about Corey Reynolds. So we're very happy for you, but I just want to say you are one of the finest employees that we've ever had. You are a tireless worker and you take on things that aren't even in your department, but you take things on, and you've helped Lane and other staff so much, and you're going to be very hard to replace. So thank you for your service.
I would like to reiterate that it's hard for me to have her leave, so she will be dearly, dearly missed. She's been a rock. She's been just really solid in the tough times, really solid in the great times, partner, and most of all, a friend. I'm really thrilled because as a superintendent, I still get to work with her. And so just at a different position, but we're just really happy for you, Corey. It definitely is our loss, but our job is to help the rising stars to get to achieve their dreams, and that's what you've done. And so congratulations. It's very well deserved.
I'm
Okay.
so hopeful that Corey will decide to commute back and forth.
That's what you said, yeah, 3.5 hours, yeah.
I'm just surprised at the lengths you'll go to not have to see me in another CLC show.
Okay, we'll move on to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have presentations, and Sarah Porish is going to talk about the state of technology.
I have to do my magic here of making sure that's going. And So I'm so happy to be here this evening, being able to bring the technology update to you all. We didn't get to do it last year just because of all the craziness. It was unbelievable. And as you know, we were working hours and hours and hours and hours. And so it feels good to be here and to be able to share with you all the kind of the fruits of what's come out of this now, really silver linings. So first thing that I really need to talk about is our mission. I always bring it back to our technology department mission. So our technology team will provide innovative tools and ideas along with exceptional customer service to all students and staff in the district, aiding in the creation of opportunities and educational experiences for all. This is very important to our little technology team that we are providing those opportunities and that it's all rooted in education. This is our team. I always like to put up their pictures because they're kind of the people that you don't always get to see forefront, but they are the ones that keep it all going for the district. And so I'm very proud of this team. They hate that I put their picture up there, but I always do. So when we really started pushing toward more technology in the district, a committee kind of got together and we came up with these 4 goals. And so the first is increase student technology skills upon graduation, and that's the professional versus the personal use. We've talked about that a lot in my prior meetings with you, is that our students, they know how to use technology. They do from really birth on now. They know how to pick up a device and watch a movie or socially do something with that device. What we're really seeing is a lack of professional skills with the technology devices, and that's where we really feel as a district that we need to come in and we need to be providing that opportunity for our students to get those professional skills. We also, another goal is to increase student engagement and motivation, increase differentiated learning opportunities. As I've said in the past, all the research shows it's not the technology that increases the student achievement, it's actually the engagement and the differentiation that increases the achievement. The technology is just the tool to help us get there. And the 4th goal originally was to guarantee equality of device access to all students. We've accomplished that. So I'm going to, toward the end of my presentation, I'd like to introduce the kind of the 4th goal that our group will be working with this year and deciding how we can put that into place. These are the devices that are in our districts. So early childhood through grade 1 all have the tablets and their Chrome tablet touchscreen. Grades 2 through 12 mostly have touchscreen Chromebooks. The few that do not at this point should have them within the next year. So we're working on our refresh for that. And then as you know, all of our staff, all of our teachers are on touchscreen laptops. And we are moving that our clerical, they will all have laptops moving forward too. One of the things that distance learning and all of this is remote working, all of that has taught us is that we really need to provide the tools to be able to be successful no matter where we are. So, summer swimming pool, I'm going to touch on this very quickly. So I have my little diving person there because I wanted to share with you. I heard so many times last year, Sarah, I remember you telling us about that. I kind of remember you telling us about this tool, or that we should do this. And I had a teacher that really one time said to me last year, I always said it'd take an act of God to make me use the technology in the classroom like this. Well, it happened. And so it really kind of forced our whole district to go in, to kind of dive into the pool there. And it was really exciting to watch everyone come together and utilize the skills and take advantage of the professional learning and the time that you all gave them to really do that professional learning together. So, evidence of the sustaining change that I've seen. Throughout this presentation, you'll see December 14th is the date that I picked as our distance learning day to look at the data. That was a day when all of our students were distance learning. We did not have any students in-house. And at that time, we had 1,360 active Google Classrooms going on, okay? on April 26, when we were in-person learning, everyone was back, we still had 1,148 active Google Classrooms. I'm very proud of this data because I wasn't sure what was going to happen when our students came back, if our teachers would continue to use those tools to enhance their teaching. And so this really shows that we are. And so that was exciting to see.
And they had been back for 2 months by that time.
Right,
So
in
they've been
April.
back for a long time
and
by
they were-
that date you picked.
Yep.
So that's especially cool.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And now, as we look forward, many teachers are planning on using that in different ways every day, just to keep their kids using that professional tool. So here's some fun facts for you to kind of put it in perspective. So 2019 was the last time that I got to come and speak with you guys. And at that time, I brought this data with me. In 2019, during a 6-month period from December until roughly July, we had 5.3 million emails had gone in and out of our system. And we were like, whoa, that's a lot of emails. This last 6 months, 11.6 million emails went in and out of our system during this last 6 months. Just really shows this difference in how we're utilizing technology. Drive files created, this is one that I'm especially excited about. 2019, when I was here, we talked about there was 442,000 drive files created. And we were talking about how we really want to see more creation, right, to get into that deeper end of the pool. We don't just want our students and our staff utilizing, we want them creating. And so during this last 6 months, now we, as you can see, we have about 2.1 million drive files were created. And so that's forms, that's spreadsheets, that's documents, all kinds of things being created by our staff and students. Our help desk tickets, this is another one that was really an aha for me, and I think for everyone who looks at it. So if you look back, 2016 is when we went to our new help desk system, the year that I started, and we were roughly 4,717 for that school year. This last school year, 13,735 help desk tickets were closed in our system. It's just unbelievable when we look at those numbers, and like I showed you our team before, we were lucky enough to increase with CARES funding by 1 team member, but that's it. And we have almost doubled the amount of tickets that we've done.
So how did you handle that backload? I mean, do you get behind with that?
I think what we do has changed. And I think that one of the big differences that you would see between 2016 and 17 versus now, 16 and 17, a lot of the tickets were device-based because they were all 8-year-old computers. They're not starting up. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. So the technicians spent a lot of time running from classroom to classroom doing those types of things. They don't do that anymore. This was a lot more, how does my student get on Google Classroom? And similar to Director Blackland's, how you brought that up when we were talking earlier this year, a lot of those how-to. So what we have done has shifted. Okay. So here's some data from distance learning compared to in-person. Again, the dates were that December date compared to that April date. And it just kind of shows in distance learning how much more the technology is used than in person. We're still using it in person, and that's what we want to continue to do, is use it in that professional manner. But I just thought it was really interesting if you look at the distance versus in-person learning. So here's some internet information for you that we found interesting. So on my left, looking up at the screen, the students learning at home graph shows our in-house bandwidth. Okay, so our bandwidth of internet within our buildings. 22.39 megabits inbound, 8.3 megabits outbound. But then when you look at what we do when our students are in our buildings, 796 inbound and 91 outbound. I just thought that was incredible to look at the amount of bandwidth that goes in and out of our system all the time. So. And then that we actually deployed over 600 hotspots to families this past year. So we were able to get that Project 10 Million grant from T-Mobile and able to provide internet to many families in our district. So we're very proud of that. That is something, again, that changed for our team. So we basically became almost like a T-Mobile satellite store for our families. So that was interesting to try to adjust to that as well.
Will that continue for next year?
Yeah, so I'll get to that in just a second. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So what's next? So right now, we are in the process of cleaning up our inventory, including recapturing all of missing devices. So within the last year, as you can imagine, it was a lot of in and out, and come and go and come and go. And actually since last March was when it kind of really blew up because we were just like devices. So we're in the process of cleaning that up. I found we were able to partner with an amazing inventory system that actually tracks our damages as well and things. So it allows us to pull really good data and follow where students are in a much, student devices are in a much more efficient manner. As far as the hotspots, so we actually allowed families to continue using their hotspots through the end of June. So at the end of June is our recapture date for the ones that are out there still. What we have implemented now is that through the Project 10 Million, families in our district can opt into $15 a month unlimited internet. So the information's on our website for them to go and click and sign up for that. It's a really easy process. We ask that people sign up for 1 year due to the paperwork and kind of keeping after that, but it ends up being $180 for unlimited internet for the entire year for our families. So then the free version of it, we will be taking those back this summer because those have a limited gigabyte, 100 gigabyte. So then when we hand them out, families will reapply for that, hand them out, they'll get a new 100 gigabytes for next year if they are in need of that free internet. So we're excited about that opportunity. As I mentioned, our fourth tech goal, we're looking at updating that, really looking at this equity piece of educational technology opportunities to all students. So they have the tools. Now we'd like them to have the same opportunity, no matter what class they're in, no matter what building they're in, teacher they have. We'd like that to be, to have the same educational technology opportunities. So that's something that we're going to be exploring as a team this year. Another thing is research and discussion of appropriate technology with our youngest learners. And again, we spoke about that a lot when we adopted the tablets. We had to adopt the tablets for distance learning. There's a lot of research and discussion that we need to have moving forward on what's an appropriate learning tool for our youngest learners. So that will continue. We are working with our community partners to ensure adequate internet access for all students. With this federal funding that continues to come in around COVID relief, our counties and our cities are really gearing up for this. What can we use this funding for in the sense of broadband? So there's a high interest in looking at what it will look like to do wall-to-wall Crow County broadband fiber. It's very reminiscent to me of when a lot of you did the fiber rings with Forest View, with the building of Forest View, and got that all going and how much that helped our community. So I'm really excited that we're able to be part of this kind of new wave of what this can look like. And then, of course, we're going to maintain and grow the awesome things that are happening around the district. That's our goal. Our biggest goal as a technology team is to support that and continue that moving forward. Like I said, now that the tools are there, now what are we going to do with them and what can that look like? And it's very exciting. So, as usual, I just want to put this up here. We have our opportunities, our innovation, and our success, and we're kind of the educational technology in the middle of all of that. So, any questions? I tried to keep it short.
You did great. I think it's just incredible what we did in last March through now, and thank you for all the work you and your team did, because I would have never guessed we could have transitioned as quickly as we did.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Miraculous. Nice work.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, Sarah.
And thank you all for your support through all of that. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to hear a presentation from Jessica Hopajoki on the summer school update.
Good evening. I'm here to talk about all of the programs that we have going on this summer for Brainerd Public Schools, from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So much press has been out there regarding learning loss and distance learning and COVID over the last 18 months. So I wanted to start with a personal story. I have a son who will be in 6th grade next year, Hawken, and he has been a struggling reader since the time he entered Brainerd Public Schools in kindergarten. Each summer, we've hired a teacher to tutor him throughout the summer, and he still can't pass an MC8. He's frustrated. He said, Mom, I don't even need to learn how to read. I'm going to be a professional baseball player. I said, honey, you need to learn how to read your contract. I know, okay. But I suck at reading. And he goes on, and it breaks my heart. He does have a strength in math, though. So we focus on that and kind of think the reading's going to come. Well, this spring, it happened. For the very first time, after spending 4 months in distance learning, when Wade and I went to work every day, he did it. He passed his 5th grade MCA, passed his math MCA. We expected that, but he did it. So we think about the learning loss going on. There is going to be loss, but there's also gains too happening. So for our kindergarten through 8th grade, we will be providing programming in the elementaries and in Forest View. In 9th through 12th grade, we will be providing credit recovery for students who had not passed classes either in the past school year or previous years. All of these programs will be provided transportation, food service. Elementary will be getting breakfast and lunch daily. Secondary are getting a super snack midway through their days. We are also offering wraparound childcare for our families. In the past, when we've done our summer school programming for our K through 8 students, it's run from 8 until 12 each day. So transportation became an issue and childcare became an issue. So you pull your kids out of daycare and then do you drop them off later? So what we were able to do with the work with Corey was to provide childcare on those 3 weeks for those families for free. So determining the needs for our K through 8 programming, PLCs were given all of the students' STAR testing data from the spring. At the point where we needed to make decisions regarding K through 8 programming, we did not have our current MCA test scores. So the PLC spent time coming up with their recommendations for their students. They also did use previous MCA scores and teacher or case manager recommendation. So invitations were sent out to all of the students who were on these recommendation lists. And something different that we worked on this year, instead of just a letter from the school saying your student qualifies for summer school, we made it more fun and made it more like summer camp. And we are offering some STEM opportunities, some FIED opportunities, music, based on the building and the staff that they could acquire for the summer. We offered online registration, phone call registration, or paper registration for any of the families. So the locations we will be holding these summer schools will be Harrison will house Harrison, Garfield, and Lowell, because Garfield and Lowell are not able to have students in them this summer. Baxter will have Baxter and Riverside. Nisswa will have their own program. Forest View will have their own program. And then we have a smaller program in my building at the Brainerd Learning Center with the middle level alternative program. Any questions about the K through 8 programming?
And you said there's transportation too, correct?
Transportation, yes.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And Jessica, you said the food, is it mainly Operation Sandwich?
No,
provides
it's
it?
all food service provided.
Okay, that's great.
So you can see we have the enrollment numbers. They're listed, and that's district-wide, not per building.
How does that compare to past years?
It's very similar. I thought we would see an increase with the extended day and the transportation, but I think there's a lot of burnout as well. So it's similar.
And it could still go up a little bit, right?
Absolutely. Forest View's numbers are listed there. Those are also very similar. New this year, or different this year, the elementaries have held on to their income or outgoing fourth graders or new fifth graders. Forest View is going to take them this year and welcome them into their building with their summer programming. And then the ninth grade, there's going to be a ninth grade program at Brainerd High School. So kind of the transition is happening before the school year starts for them. So credit recovery, we have credit recovery running at Brainerd High School, at AEC or Brainerd Learning Center, and we also are operating under distance learning as well. This is a standards-based credit recovery, so the student, if they have gotten an NC in the course, the teachers at Brainerd High School needed to identify the standards that they did not meet, document that, and then those are the standards that they will recover in credit recovery. They do not need to complete the whole course unless the teacher identified that the student needed to complete the entire course. So they can earn credits at a faster pace than taking the whole course in the next school year or a different semester. Summer school will run, or is currently running, Monday through Thursday, 8 until 12, until June 24th. The numbers for this program are up compared to years previous. Typically, we see about 100 to 125 at Brainerd High School, and right now we have 207 enrolled. At AEC, we have approximately 70 students enrolled. That is up also, but not by a lot. New this year, we are going to try a Jumpstart program. It's a Jumpstart for ninth graders, a transition into high school. They've identified, or Forest View has identified a group of students that could benefit from some additional academic support as well as a foundation to Brainerd High School. So we're gonna see how that goes. The numbers are kind of small right now, but we're hoping if we can get 1 year under our belt and then learn from what we need to do for the future. I also listed there the potential credits to be earned, the staff that we have provided at Brainerd High School and AEC. Any questions on 9 through 12 programming? Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about our fall plan because targeted services is year-round service. And our plan for the fall is that we are going to offer targeted services in all of the elementaries in Forest View, Tuesdays and Thursdays with a snack provided daily, transportation beginning right after that Education Minnesota break and running until early May. Credit recovery will start at during those same dates. They will run 3 sessions of credit recovery. So a high school student has the opportunity to recover 3 credits during the school year and then 2 in summer school if needed.
Will that be in their schools or will they go somewhere for that?
It will be in their schools.
In their schools.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'm planning to come back and present to the school board on August 23rd with kind of the results of summer school and how things went. So, any questions?
I love how you made the invitations more fun. I hope that more people do sign up because, yeah.
You have to make it more fun.
Yeah.
And adding in the STEM and physical education and music and different opportunities that they can have and not just reading and math.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica.
You bet.
Okay, next we'll move on to new business. Presentation of Blueprint 181 project update. Thanks for waiting so patiently.
I don't even.
Was there?
Gremlins. Computer gremlins. Sarah, we need you. Yeah, do we gotta get a help desk ticket?
Put in a help desk ticket, yeah.
All right. Good evening.
Hello.
Summer is in full swing. We are jumping like crazy right now, getting a lot of work done. There's been a lot of great progress over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks and 2 days. So we have a lot of good things to show you tonight. We'll start with Scott Whittemore in Brevard High School.
All right, Area 2, we're just working on punch list items right now, which is kind of the pack and all those ancillary spaces. The auditorium pit filler was installed. That's the bottom picture there. There are some hardware functions that didn't come correct, so we're working on getting them rectified as soon as we can. It will not affect the Lakes Area Music Festival initial performance, which is slated for the beginning of August. So that's confirmed. As soon as we get those pieces rectified, we'll get them there and installed, and we'll pull them out for the next performance, which is like August 16th, I believe. Area 10, we're just backfilling and continuing the southern portion of the lap pool. So we will be pouring the last of our surge tank pours tomorrow, and then we'll start digging out the rest of the lap pool. Area 6, which is kind of the CTE wing fax area, that's all substantially complete. All of our kitchen equipment showed up, was installed. We hooked up the last of our sinks. Right now, we're just waiting to final clean it, and we've got 1 day where we'll do a fire suppression tie-in here probably next week, and that'll round out Area 6. The greenhouse, it started today, so you'll start seeing that structure go up. They're wanting to make hay while the sun's shining, so I think they're still out there working right now. Area 7, which is kind of our CTE wing, we will be starting terrazzo tomorrow. All of those business, engineering, CAD, fax class, business class, those are all done. We're just waiting to final clean them, and we need to get the terrazzo in there. It's pretty dusty. Once that's wrapped up, we should be turning that space over at the end of July, maybe the first part of August, depending on we're waiting on a couple of pieces of electrical gear and some HVAC equipment. And Area 9, so the Ox Gym is up, our deck is on, they're roofing it right now. Our mid deck, they have all the structural steel installed. They're going to start doing the decking tomorrow. And then we're going to be going after the curtain wall, which is that big glass see-through area on the south side of the cardio room to do our tie-in probably in the next 3 weeks. So any questions? We will be starting some Quint Street Storm tie-in work. So an already congested street will get a little bit more congested, but it is construction personnel only on that street right now. South Campus, and since I wrote this on, I don't know, Thursday of last week, Area A demo's done. Area B, we are about 95% complete. Area C, they did start selective. They're tearing out all the lights and all the ceiling grid. Area D, which is the gym, we will be starting next week with the selective demo there. And in Area E, which is the Alamo, kind of for all of the miscellaneous equipment. That will be starting in about 2 weeks. The main building demolition, we were supposed to start last week, and we did start. We did encounter some asbestos or some ACM containing adhesives in the precast panel, so that slowed down progress a little bit, but the crews did work this weekend to get caught back up once we got the green light and the plan in place to abate that material. And then we did have a OSHA safety consultation walkthrough last week, Wednesday. So the initial visit is complete, no immediate findings, everything's going actually really well over there. Any questions on north or south?
Looks great.
Yeah.
Really great job you guys are doing.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Scott. Warrior Early Learning Center, working on completing the exterior concrete, final grading. They're going to be looking to do the first lift of asphalt this week, maybe the 2nd, depending on the weather and how things go. But we have the temp CO, so everything is all set with that building right now. Just a matter of wrapping up the site work. So things are coming along, and I believe we're gonna have students there next week. So we're coming right in and getting it wrapped up right in time to get kids there. So, which is awesome. Garfield Elementary, interior demo continues. Asbestos removal started in the boiler room. CMU walls for the admin and the kitchen space are complete. Structural steel is being installed. Wood blocking at the roof has started. Concrete saw cutting and concrete removal in the stage area has been completed. Mechanical and electrical rough-ins throughout. Roofing has started, and we got our permit today. We have to go in and bring the check in tomorrow, but we have the permit issued for the gym addition, so we get to start excavation on the gym too. So we're excited about that. So we're gonna catch Marcy early tomorrow to get that check.
So that'll easily be done by the end of the summer?
It'll be done, we're planning for like early October, like October 1st, right around that date, so. Just because there's just a lot of work that's gonna be involved with the gym, and we wanna refinish that wood floor.
Okay.
Before the snow flies.
Oh, great.
We'll have it done.
We have it all worked out with Jody Bob, it's gonna be okay. Lowell Elementary, concrete paving and asphalt's continuing around the building. Underground plumbing and wall framing were completed in the lower level. Drywall and tile back are being installed. Demo on the first floor started. Demos on the second floor has also started. We're working on steel erection at the stage area, and we're working on the connection points between the new addition and the existing building. There's a lot of hard work happening right now. There's a lot of demolition taking place. All of those walls, if you guys can remember Harrison's demolition, all those walls are about, I would say about 70% complete as far as getting them demoed. And a lot of busybodies there, getting a lot of material out. It's been going actually really well with, and they've been using more equipment than manpower, so it's been a little more interesting. They've been using jackhammers and different things on little, what's the word for the equipment?
All the robotic jackhammers.
Yeah, robotic jackhammers, they run a low remote control. It's pretty interesting. So instead of like 30 college students with sledgehammers, we have this equipment now that knocks the stuff down way more efficiently. So a lot of good work. You can see in the pictures, it's coming right along. So I think we're gonna be close to demo complete by end of the week. We also have concrete floor infills happening, and we're gonna be starting to do some metal wall framing so we can start doing rough-ins. So by far our tightest schedule of the summer, so we are paying very close attention to that. Mark and Charles are doing a great job making sure the contractors are in conformance. So
instead of groundbreaking with sand, we could use the
you just want to try it, right? I do too.
It does look cool.
Riverside Elementary, demos started in areas A, B, and C. Stage demos completed. Steel erection activities started in area B. Foundation systems were started at the receiving area. Underground plumbing started in area B. Mechanical and electrical rough-ins started in areas A, B, and C. So we got a lot of work happening with the cafeteria area, the new cafetorium. A lot of work happening on the south side of that building. So asbestos is just wrapping up. High Tech did a really good job of getting ahead of the game and gutting out those classrooms before asbestos started. So really seems like there's a lot of good momentum right there. Both Jesse and Mark are doing a great job there as well. So.
Damien, one of the things that I forgot to talk about in our meeting today is we'd like to set up just some quick tours before the next two meetings, if that works. Maybe we could do South Campus and North Campus at the high school before one of the meetings. And maybe a real quick tour of all three of the elementaries. Would that work?
Absolutely.
Or can we get that figured out though, so that the board can, it's really interesting to see what's going on there right now. So it'd be nice to get you in before, to see it in process, so.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you guys come through.
So we'll get that scheduled. Great.
Hey, Damien, quick question on or Scott, on the South Campus. Did all the materials get ordered? I know you're concerned about the steel and a lot of the materials.
Yeah, all the materials that we can order have been ordered. So some of, there's two things that come to mind. The below grade fuel oil storage tank is a year out. So we're trying to find different vendors to supply this tank, and we're getting essentially the same message from each vendor that it's a 1 year wait. That won't it's not good, but it's not going to affect turning the school over at this point. So if we place the order today, we'll have it by next June. We do have a July 1 substantial completion date, but it would hold up some of the exterior improvements on the southern portion of the school. And then the roofing material has been ordered. However, we will not receive that until this fall sometime. So those are the only two things that I've been made aware of that are going to be, they're not issues, they're not deal breakers by any means, but they are longer than normal lead times. We don't have any a significant amount of steel joists, so that's one of the things that's being affected. There is a potential that paint, because the Sherwin-Williams paint that we selected for the project, the factory in Texas had a fire and apparently disrupted supply chains across the United States. So we do have a secondary approved equal paint vendor that we'll likely be going with, just because we won't be able to get Sherwin-Williams paint. But there's longer than normal lead times, but right now nothing that's a deal breaker.
Okay, thanks.
Another item that we're tracking also is drywall mud, believe it or not. Drywall compound is also something that's become a shortage of. So some things that you really take for granted are starting to become questions. So
There's more materials are harder to get, you know, EMT and PVC. They're still able to get it, they're just, the contractors are having to go through multiple sources because they're hitting lot restrictions on how much they can order, and the price has gone up significantly on some of those items, so they're trying to, you know, price shop as well. But
definitely interesting times this summer.
Unique.
Just one more complication to your already complicated job.
Yeah, all things considered though, we're getting everything we need in order to get the stuff installed with the exception of the roofing material and the low grade fuel oil storage tank.
The teams have really done a good job of managing procurement too, and just there's been that running list during all of our construction coordination meetings, just trying to make sure we have all the materials that we need, so we don't have an issue in August. So
The swimming pool, I get a lot of questions about that. Like, will it be ready? When do you think it'll be ready?
We are targeting that November 21st to do the changeover between the new and the old.
Okay.
We're still on track for November 21st.
between the seasons, the girls and the boys season.
Okay. Any other questions?
And Charlie's aware of that and the coaches and such, right?
Yep. Yeah, we've had numerous conversations with Charlie.
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're going to have a presentation on Read Well by Grade 3 by Taylor DeMuth.
Yep.
Welcome. Which building do you teach in?
I'm actually located in the district office now.
Oh, okay.
Yep, this is my first year, so. All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I am Taylor DeMuth, and I am the Elementary Literacy and Social Studies Coordinator. Tonight, I'll be presenting the Read Well by Grade 3 data, our local literacy plan, and our dyslexia document. So first of all, just kind of going through the components that make up our local literacy plan. There are 8 sections of it. We talk through section 1, what are our goals for all of our learners. Section 2, how do we progress monitor? Section 3 is how do we keep parents informed of their children's progress in the area of reading. Section 5, how do we continue to support our teachers? Professional learning in the area of literacy. We have literacy coaches at each of the buildings who coach individually as well as provide professional development for their teachers. We use a comprehensive approach for reading instruction. We have a language and literacy framework that incorporates both whole group, small group, and individual assessment and tools to help students in the areas of reading, writing, and word study. This approach supports each learner using the tailored instruction based upon their current needs for reading success. Section 7 is about continuing to support our teachers in the area of our cultural competencies. And this year we had the opportunity, as I was thinking, preparing for the presentation, I had the opportunity to work with Ashley Ingebrigtsen, and she she and I were able to come together, collaborate with the Department of Teaching and Learning and APAC, and we purchased quite a few Native American resource read-alouds for each of our K-4 classrooms, specific to the grade level, based upon just the content standards and things that we cover at each grade level. We also were able to provide district time for teachers across the district to collaborate, read the text together, actually have the time to discuss how they plan to use them within their classrooms. And we received a lot of really great feedback about how excited they were to incorporate that into their instruction. And that will be work that will continue moving forward. And Section 8 is the dyslexia and convergency insufficiency disorder. And this is something we screen all of our students, K-4, using benchmark assessment system, which is our text leveling tool that we use. I'll go into greater detail later in the presentation about that. That's the initial screener we use. And then for any student that's performing below grade level, within the area of text leveling, there are other diagnostic tools that we have the students take. If they are unable to pass 3 of them, then there's a process that we submit that information to the state, inform parents, and share additional resources with them to use at home, as well as provide more intervention support for those students. So at the bottom of this slide, that's where the local literacy plan is located. Okay, so our Read Well, this is our Read Well data for the 2021 school year. So a couple of things to consider when looking at this data. We did, for tracking purposes, include the DL cohort students in their home school, just so that as they move through, we're able to continue to track them within our database. We did our best to keep the assessments as reliable and valid as possible. The STAR reading assessment was given to our distance learning cohorts at home. So when we're reviewing that data, we just want to keep that in mind. Other notes on the data. So the literacy data is broken down by subtest and school within that data submission document. And then I also calculated the district totals. So our district and this is our percentage passing rate for each of the assessments. So for letter identification, that's given in kindergarten, we had a district passing rate of 91%. For concepts about print, that's given in kindergarten as well, and that was an 85% pass rate. Hearing and recording sounds and words, that's given at first grade with a district pass rate of 89%. Our benchmark assessment system, as I talked about earlier, that's the text leveling done at grades K through 4. And our district percentages of students at or above grade level for kindergarten was 65%, first grade was 58%, second grade was 64%, third grade was 63%, and fourth grade 63% as well. Our STAR reading assessment, that's the online assessment that we have our students grades 2 through 4 do. The data was quite similar to the text leveling in that second grade it was a 61% pass rate, third grade was 67%, and fourth grade was 64%. And as I looked at our data and thought about the challenges of this year within the classrooms with students moving in and out of person, and I had so many teachers reach out to me trying to do, how can I make this work? What can we do? And continually modifying and adapting that instruction to meet their students' needs. I truly believe that if we can continue as we move forward for this upcoming school year, focusing on our core instruction as we have been, focusing on continuing to use all of the components of the literacy framework with fidelity, we'll be able to make up those losses. The next piece, this is specifically in regards to dyslexia. So the indicators of dyslexia are listed on the slide. And what we do, the screener and diagnostic tools that we use are what are used to identify these. That moves us to the next slide, and this is the teacher plan. So on the very last slide, I have an outline of the plan that we share that teachers have available to them. And this slide right here outlines the specific supports that are part of the dyslexia document. There's resources, there's articles, there's interventions and district forms that we all use to help walk teachers through the indicators of dyslexia, the tools used to screen for them, and also for each skill and concept associated with learning to read, there are tier 1, 2, and 3 levels of support. So if students are struggling with a concept, you start with that tier 1 support. And if that's not enough, then you move to tier 2 and tier 3. And we have, we've already identified within those multiple tiers of support what specific interventions we're using and what curricular resources we're using to help with that. And
Do you know what, like, how common dyslexia is or what percentage of students on average?
You know, I don't have that exact data.
But it must be more common than we think.
Well, and I think too, so with the students that we identify as potentially having dyslexia, that's where those specific tiered interventions are so important. So again, we're very cautious not to diagnose dyslexia, but with that, if they are unable to pass 3 of the 6 diagnostic assessments, then we really look at, okay, what supports do we have in place or what have we tried, and begin that tracking process. Yeah. And then this final slide, this just kind of goes through, the diagram on the left shows the tiers of support. So the green is tier 1, and that's that primary core instruction. Tier 2 is we move up to that level of support, that's intervention, and then if we don't see progress, if things over a calculated period of time, then you move into that intensive intervention where we have those designated resources. So, do you have any questions for me in regards?
Can you explain what orthographic memory loss is?
Orthographic memory
You
loss?
had it on one of your slides. Maybe it wasn't memory loss, it was
Yep.
recall memory.
So that is their ability to recall. You might possibly read something and you're trying to talk about what you read, or trying, oftentimes with children with dyslexia, they're working so hard to understand the words that they've read and to word solve and to figure out, because things seem to be moving and shifting in ways that then when you get to the part where you're talk about what you've read, it's very, that recall and memory piece can oftentimes be very difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Taylor, I had a question on your second slide. I was just curious on this section 7, it's training, training for teachers in cross-cultural competence, and I was just wondering what an example of what kind of training that is.
So
if you might have.
when you look at that section of the document, it talks about just providing, it gives a breakdown of our percentages of students, our cultural backgrounds of each of the students. And we do have our cultural liaison resource person who we can go to and who can kind of help to facilitate those conversations and help to guide our teachers. And I know one of the things that when I worked with Ashley, when we created that presentation for teachers, was just, how do you make sure that we're mindful of things that, you read certain books at certain times of the year to be respectful, and how the pronunciation piece, how do you, if there are languages we're not familiar with, or, and really just kind of giving teachers access to more of those resources if they need them to help guide that work.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions?
Good work.
Okay,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great work.
Well
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into the approval of the Read Well by Grade 3 local literacy plan as presented. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No,
Okay,
that was it. Thank you.
okay.
I'll move the approval of the Read Well by Grade 3 as
Okay.
presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Sjogren to approve the Read Well by Grade 3 local literacy plan.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Next, we have the approval of the FY22 liability and workers' compensation insurance renewal as presented.
So I invited
Hi,
Jake.
everyone.
Yeah, this is Jake Hoosier from Weisenegger Engel Insurance, and I wanted you all to And I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. So I wanted
You've come to a meeting before, haven't you?
I have, yeah. And I've seen everybody kind of throughout. I have a couple of kids in the district and I coach basketball, so.
Are you new with the agency or?
What's that? Yeah, relatively new. Almost 16 years, Tom. Can't believe it. I can't believe more people didn't want to stick around and listen to this. This is exciting stuff.
The numbers.
Yeah, right?
Hurry up before you lose us.
Okay, let's go, Marcy.
Yeah. So as you can see in your guys' memo, that the average is around 4% for all of them, except for the cyber. That was a large increase. It looks like it in the percentage wise, but dollar wise, it was only about 21,000. And Jake can speak to that.
Yeah, that's been a particularly challenging, I mean, obviously COVID has been a huge issue for a lot of things, but it has really hit in cyber. Cyber claims are up 70% since COVID. Evidently more people have time to sit and hack. So that increase is not because of any activity. It is strictly because of the school district business has been hit so hard in the industry. So it's really becoming a challenge. I mean, you hear about it in the news every day. So, but school districts are a big target right now. And we have high limits. I mean, we want to have those high limits in case something actually does happen. So that comes with a cost, unfortunately. But
In our work comp, you can see there's been an increase in the claims there, and our mod is starting to go back up. So, I mean, hopefully that'll stay steady, but there was an increase there as well.
it's still 20 points under average. So, I mean, yes, we are seeing a little bit more. And I think a lot of that's due to the construction and just oddities in the workplace. You know, I mean, we were going to, I mean, Marcy and I talk, I mean, it seems like twice a week, I think, on lots of things, but it's
an odd workplace.
Yeah. Well, and
There's
with
a
the-
lot of us oddities in the workplace, right? You too.
I'm glad you said that one.
It sounded like it just struck me funny, that's all.
Maybe I should
So,
use it.
yeah, our claims were up a lot, so you're thinking that was because of the construction?
Yes, so like there was one instance where there was a temporary step, and that was one of them. And so, yes, there's been a couple of instances that we could talk.
So I know we really put a focus on that, lowering our workers' comp 5 years ago or something like that when it was so high.
It's made
But
a
we haven't
tremendous
lost
difference.
that, we haven't lost that focus is what I want to make sure of, that we're still.
And the loss control person from SFM is here. I mean,
Okay.
they're very involved in
Very
trying
much
to do things to, you know, maintain that risk management that you have adopted. And it's, like I said, it's still 20% under average. The underwriter actually set the, offset the increase of experience mod this year with credits to try to keep that base rate essentially flat. The payroll's up 900,000, so that's why that looks a little bit different, but yeah.
Could I ask if there was a malware attack, what would our limits be?
$1 million. Yep.
What's a typical malware claim?
Right now, the average is 70,000. So they're big, and I don't see them going down either, unfortunately.
It looks like a pretty good deal on cyber liability when I look at our 3-year average and what our premium is. I should say that. But
Well, I agree with you. I mean, from what we see from lots of different classes of business, yes, it is. But it wraps and covers many, many things, from ransoms to extortion to all kinds of different things like that.
So from an underwriting perspective, are school districts considered low, medium, or high risk compared to other entities?
I'm glad you said that. High risk for sure right now. In the last 3 years, they are getting just hammered in the loss ratios. And not just cyber, but all lines. Thankfully, Hanover has partnered with the district for a while now and able to offset some of those things. Like this year was obviously a rough year, but they date back to 2017. So there's, you know, they can offset some of that things that happen in a bad year. And last year the base rate was down 5%. This year it's about a 2% change. You know, we've added Baxter obviously, so it doesn't look like it's a 2% change, but rate to rate. So
when all our buildings are complete and they're new and everything, do we get some discounts for having newer buildings versus older buildings?
for sure, yes. And then the builder's risk won't be on there either, so that'll help a lot.
And he pointed out that Baxter was added, and then we should see, you know, Lincoln eventually fall off, so that would go back down.
Okay.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Good. I would move to approve our insurance as presented.
Okay.
I'll second. Oh, Charles Beatty.
Okay. We have a motion by Director Hagelin, second by Director Blacklands to approve the FY22 liability and workers' compensation renewal. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose like sign. Motion passes
Thank you very
unanimously.
much. We
Thank you.
appreciate the partnership a lot.
Thanks,
so
Jake.
Thank you. Thanks for your great job that you do for us.
Thank you.
Okay, next on to approval to adopt the Baxter Parks and Recreation budget. Corey, I feel like I want to cry. I mean,
Don't,
is this your last meeting?
yes,
Oh,
You're not gonna be here for the June 28th meeting?
no. Sorry.
hey, have you already started to move down in the area?
We will this week.
Oh, okay,
My husband will. He'll take the full first load.
okay.
Well, I am here to, the first of my items is regarding Baxter Park and Rec. So we just have some routine business tonight to do, which is to approve a budget. We do this every year. The city and the city council and the board have to approve an operating budget for the joint powers agreement. We met a few weeks ago in Baxter City Council chambers. The Joint Powers Board did and approved what you see before you for programming and budget. We recognize there's a lot of uncertainty. I still don't really know what the year after a pandemic looks like. So we're just not sure what the ripple effects of all the changes we've been through are going to be. So the Joint Powers Board approved what you're seeing tonight with kind of the footnote that it would be brought back up around a revision time, that we would look very carefully about revising to be more accurate and things at that time. We've had a great summer with kids participating. Over 1,000 kids are participating in Parks and Rec programs this summer, so. And none of them have melted out on the field. A couple of parents in the stands almost have, but the kids seem fine.
And I'd echo what Corey said. I was at the meeting with the mayor and two other representatives from the city, Josh Doty and I can't remember the other, Brad Chapolis. Yeah. You know, and times are tough for everyone. You know, they do what, a $20,000?
Their contribution is typically about somewhere between 30 and 35,000.
Oh, okay.
This year it's lower, in part because Community Ed entered into a contract with the city of Brainerd to do some Parks and Rec programming. So we know there's going to be some reshuffling of kids and the revenue that they bring to the program, and some efficiencies in the program. Baxter for years has been paying for a number of Brainerd kids to participate, and some of those Brainerd kids now will charge to Brainerd. So it just,
So that's the line item of contribution is Baxter? Is that the 20,000?
yes, correct, just Baxter's.
And I think we're also hoping to get something from Brainerd because some of their kids are participating in the Baxter program.
That's a separate agreement, a contract we have with the city of Brainerd.
Okay. And it keeps our kids off the street.
So what is the, on the expenses, just a couple of line items were quite, the non-program salaries and benefits? Is it just because it didn't happen last year and well this year, the 15,000?
No, so that is typically the, like the business office, the people who do some of the back end work to process the payments that are made, do the purchasing, that kind of thing.
Okay. Okay.
Other questions?
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the budget as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Sjogren, second by Director Blacklands to approve and to adopt the Baxter Parks and Recreation budget as presented. Any further discussion?
Just one more question on that contribution. Is it a formula that Baxter uses, or is it this is what we can do this year?
Well, Marcy and I kind of work to develop this together.
Okay.
And there's no real magic to it. It's sort of like what's our projected revenue in fees, in banner sales and T-shirt sales, sponsorships of all kinds, our projected expenses, and then what's the balance left over.
And then that's our ask to them.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, let's do the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the approval to waive the Baxter baseball field fees for summer 21 as presented.
That's me too. And it says Baxter, but that should say all Brainerd Public Schools baseball field fees. So what has come up this spring as people have worked with my office to reserve space is sort of a sticker shock of the new fee schedule. And not always because it was so much or so little or anything like that, just the fact that it's there. My guess is that some organizations, although I tried to get a lot of communication out there, it wasn't their season or it wasn't their time of year to work with us, so that they didn't see it. So what has come up as we have now entered the baseball season is that there are questions about the fee schedule, totally normal. And those questions really have been kind of twofold. The first being, which is new to me, that players and coaches on a baseball team do a lot of work to maintain and groom fields. And there is value to that work. That work, in theory, saves our groundskeepers from doing work that would need to be done on those fields. So that is a question that's come up. What is the value of that work to our organization? The second question has been around the unforeseen and unintended consequences of changing our fees, namely the potential for an impact on the city's relationship with our relationship with the city of Brainerd to use their fields for our varsity, junior varsity, other teams. We just didn't think of it. It just never dawned on anyone, me, on Charlie, on Derek, any of us that reviewed this, that us changing our fees may make them, that may induce them to make a decision about their own field fees. So my ask to you is that we waive facility rental fees for regular practices and games for the baseball organizations in the community this summer, and so that we can gather data on those two pieces I spoke about, on the value of the work that coaches and players do, and then our actual costs. There are some costs we're always going to mow the lawns. We're always, on a field, whether somebody is using them or not, but we may line and truck and drag them specifically for games, and those are the kind of costs we actually want to quantify and be able to compare. So the city of Brainerd and the city of Baxter have agreed that this is what they will do with their field use this summer too, that they will waive any fees so that we have a summer where we're all gathering the similar data, and then in the fall they'll bring that data together and see what's what. And as somebody from another organization put it, it wouldn't make any sense for us to cut a check to the city of Brainerd for use of our varsity use of their fields, and then they cut us a similar check for their use of our fields for whatever they're doing. So that's really what's behind this, is just to give us a little time to gather the data.
I would just raise one more point because I heard from a member of the community about this issue too, and the issue that was raised as an example was given that the VFW, for example, has contributed money in the past for scoreboard and bleachers, was the example given. And then when the VFW teams are playing, then they're charged, and does that, it just seems a little bit in conflict that the VFW has made this contribution to the school district, and then they're turning around and they felt nickeled and dimed after making that contribution, and would it hamper groups' desires to want to contribute in the future if the value of that contribution wasn't recognized.
And I think that's what the data we gather will allow us to, those are some of those questions.
Yeah.
Some of those donations were made before I was born.
Right, yeah.
So if we quantify that in such a way to say, you know, it appears that you have recouped the cost of that several times over. My hope is that we would be able to come to a solution that feels fair to everyone.
And I don't know the data of timing or anything like that. I just put that forward as something that was shared with me.
There's lots of times and there's lots of lore around baseball fields here in Brainerd.
Well, and they use the baseball fields for a lot of hours and a lot of games and a lot of practices. So the fees that we have in here do add up to a lot.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think it's good that we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we knew when we put this policy in place that there were probably going to be issues such as this that came up that we were going to have to look at and reevaluate. And I'm glad that you brought it forward and asked us to do that because, like you said, when we sat at those meetings and talked about this, we had no idea. We didn't even think about this.
No.
And so I appreciate you bringing it forward and hope you'll keep the next your next person abreast on this so that we make sure that we're addressing this in a timely manner.
Yes. What I've learned is that our baseball friends in the community have very long memories, so nobody will let anyone forget what happens here tonight and what the plan is. But I will also leave detailed notes about what the intention was here.
Thank you.
Well, and on their behalf too, I mean, I remember that quite well, that the VFW put a lot of money into that facility. The reason it's first class is in many ways because of the VFW.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank the VFW for everything they have done.
Yeah, and I should say too that working with members of the baseball community here has been easy. It's been pleasant. You know, at times we've disagreed, but I think we've come to a place where like, wait, we each have our opinions, but what we really need is more data. Mm-hmm. And so it's been good to work with them, and I hope they would feel the same from what they're getting from on the school district side too.
Okay, I'll make the motion to waive the baseball field fees for the summer of 2021.
I'll second it.
And that's for the Brainerd Public Schools
Oh, yeah,
fields,
Brainerd,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Baseball field. I would just point out that this is regular games and practices. It would not apply to tournaments.
Okay.
Any labor and materials that, and the baseball people understand that those would incur costs to them.
Okay. We have a motion by Director Nelson, second by Director Boyles to approve the waiving of the Baxter/Brainerd Public Schools Parks and Recreation budget. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Corey. Next, we have the approval of the 21-22 resolution for membership in the Minnesota State High School League as presented.
I am going to take this, but it was my understanding that Charlie Campbell was going to be here to address this tonight. I just checked with Janet, and neither one of us have the accurate data on what the Minnesota High School League fees are for this coming school year, and the documentation doesn't have that. So it's up to the board. We can either accept the 2021-22 resolution for membership with the Minnesota State High School League, because that is something that we do every year. Mm-hmm. Or we can table it until the next meeting and have Charlie come and either give us the information or come and address the board. I do know that last year during COVID, there was a big increase. In fact, they were hurting so bad during the middle of the year that they increased the fees during the middle of the year. And so if the board would like to table this and get that information and have him bring it back, that I think that would be a fair thing to do.
Okay.
And it says that we have until August 31st.
We have till August 31st as well, so yes.
Should we just table it?
Mm-hmm.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you can come on June 28th.
Yep,
He might be down with that golf tournament.
he might be.
Oh, okay. Okay, number 8, approval of the annual MSBA Association dues and policy service fees for July 21 to June 22 is presented.
That one I can address, that I have a clear understanding about the fact that the dues this year are $13,222, which is a $482 increase. The increase actually, though, the dues are based on the average daily membership and what that means, and students served, and so that's how this is determined. And so I would recommend the Board of Education approve the $13,222 so that you, as a Board of Education, belong to MSBA and all of the wonderful professional developments and policy updates and everything, that you have that support, and even legal analysis at times, that I would recommend that you approve this.
Yeah, they're really such an invaluable resource for us.
They really are, yep.
Do the policy templates that we use for all of our policies come through that relationship?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
And then if there's individual things that we think make us a little bit different, we'll share those with the board at the time on how we've changed the policies.
All right, well, then I'll move for the approval of the annual MSBA Association dues and policy service fees.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Director Boyles, second by Director Blacklands to approve the annual MSBA Association dues and policies for this coming school year. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Pose like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Next, we have the approval of the first reading of the revised MSBA board or policy number 416. Drug and alcohol testing is presented.
As you can tell, I'm filling in for Miss Angie Bennett this evening. Before you have the first draft, and you'll see there's multiple strike-throughs with this district policy. The main strike-throughs are that we're removing the mandatory drug testing pieces of this policy. We will use reasonable suspicion in replacement of those. The other removal comes for commercial licensed bus drivers. We don't employ the bus drivers, so we can strike those out from that. And for our type 3 drivers, the mandatory drug testing will only be required for those that's their sole position. So we have many coaches who've gone through extensive background checks and things like that with our district, and they're also considered type 3 drivers as they're transporting students. So those are the main changes to the policy. The other pieces that are being recommended for removal are attachments A through H, which are all the documents that are signed when mandatory testing's been required.
So do we have in our contract with our transportation company, drug and alcohol testing?
It's required for commercial drivers,
Okay.
but it's not something that we're overseeing or implementing, so therefore we can strike it from our district policy.
And this would be the first reading, and so since it's a modified policy, we for sure would have, especially in one like this with so many changes, that we would approve the first reading and then bring it back on June 28th for the final approval.
So suspicion of behavior, is that increasing in the district?
Well, there's specific training that happens for that. So there's certain staff, administrative staff that are required to receive that training. No, it's not very likely, but there is required training that happens annually. We keep track of those trainings so that if there is a process or an individual that we're suspecting, there's a process and steps that we'll clearly follow through that reasonable suspicion.
Okay.
I'll move to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hegland, second by Director Blacklands to approve the first reading of the revised MSBA policy 416. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously. Then, do you want to explain again, A through H? Just, I mean,
Number 10 should be the first reading as well.
It should be the first reading.
It wouldn't be final until.
These are all the addendums that identify the individuals
Okay.
for mandatory testing. So for removing mandatory testing, you would remove the attachments for the individual to sign as part of that policy.
Okay.
And this would be the first reading again, and we finalize it on the 28th.
Correct.
I'll approve the first reading for the removal of forms 416A through H.
You said approve, but you mean motion, right?
Yes.
I'll second her approval and the motion.
Okay. Motion is made by Director Nelson, second by Director Boyles to approve the first reading of removal of forms 416A through H.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes unanimously.
It would speed things up if you just, I approve.
Yeah, that would, yeah.
I was just trying.
Okay.
Somebody's amending Robert's
can do
Rules of
this.
Order as we speak.
I think I should.
Oh, okay. Okay, before we get to 11 and 12, we are going to talk a little bit about 902 because we have talked before that we've had a request to serve alcohol at the new Performing Arts Center by Lakes Area Music Festival. We may get other requests in the future. In fact, I'm sure we will. And we've bantered back and forth between us and Lakes Area Music. We thought the legislature had to approve it. We've now found the city council can make a special waiver. And then I'm going to let Superintendent Larson. She's the one that has studied this.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I have spent way too many hours on this topic. I can tell you that through the months. But there was kind of I think just a communication gap at some point because we have had several people bring forward and asking if there is the possibility of in a private event or a nonprofit organization holding an event, if there was the possibility of being able to serve a small amount of alcohol in the lobby and like in the black box room of the Gitche. And originally, when we visited with legal counsel, they thought that it was like businesses who were wanting to host something where they would serve and sell food and sell liquor and those kinds of things. And so to do something like that, you have to get a change in the law. You also have to get updates from your city council and board approval. Well, and they've, honestly, many entities in the community have also been working with their legal counsels to see if there's a way of bringing it forward to the board to ask permission in which to do so. Recently, Lakes Area Music Festival has contacted the city council. They have also contacted legal counsel. As a nonprofit organization, there is a potential of getting an up to 4-day pass or a license in which to serve alcohol, where they can actually contract with some of our local businesses, but they are the licensee. And that is legal to do on school property. A business can't come in and sell on the property, but a nonprofit can hold an event in which you can do that. And so we have been asked, and I know Bob has gotten several emails on this, if we would bring this forward to the Board of Education, get it approved by our legal counsel of what would be legal, align it with our policy, and bring it forward to the board for conversation to see if the board would consider this. Because if Lakes Area Music Festival will have this opportunity in August, it would need to get board approval, and then they would have to apply for the license, which takes a period of time for them to become licensees and to do the work. So before you tonight, we have brought forward the policy 902, which is an MSBA policy that the Board of Education approved on, looks like it might have been September 28th of 2020 regarding the use of school district facilities and equipment. If you go into the policy to number 7, general regulations for school facilities and equipment use, letter C, you'll see that the current policy that the Board of Education has approved said that there would be no tobacco, alcohol, or illegal substance served within any school buildings. And so what we asked the board, or what I asked legal counsel to do is in accordance with the statute, and I've got the number here, gotta find it. Minnesota statute, section 624.701 subdivision 1, there is permission for nonprofit organizations to do this. and to get a temporary license from the cities, and so that they can have catering and liquor in the facility if the board so approves to do this. And if you look at the red, that is the legal verbiage that the board would approve to allow these short-term licenses that are approved through the city of Brainerd to have occur. I will tell you that the only one I'm bringing forward tonight is for the Gitche-Zebe Center for the Arts. It is for no other buildings in the district. Primarily because I know when Corey and I met with them today, you can block it off and it can be completely separate of the school, whereas like Tornstrom downstairs, it's right where our early childhood program is and those kinds of things. And so I'm bringing forward tonight just the regulations and the guidelines that our legal counsel said would make this legal and that would work for our district. So basically, if you look, number one, the individual or entity hosting the event must obtain a temporary liquor license, meeting the requirements as outlined in the statute that I talked about. The alcohol can only be served, consumed, or possessed in the lobby, the laboratories immediately adjacent to the lobby, and the studio stage area of the Gitche-Zebe Center for the Arts. Number three, there would be no individual may possess an alcoholic beverage in any other area at the Center for the Arts unless the individual is moving alcohol in or out of the building to be served. Number four, the individual or entity holding the event must pay the damage deposit of $1,000, which would be applied to the rental fee if there was no damage, and that amount would be refunded. But there would be $1,000 put up front in case there was any damage because of it. Number five, the individual or entity holding the event must arrange and pay for security which has been approved by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. The individual or entity must maintain the social host or similar insurance coverage which has been approved by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee, in addition to the insurance requirements that are applicable for other events that do not have alcohol. So there may have to be an increase in their insurance premium that they have to have because they're serving it. And finally, number seven, the individual or entity holding the event must comply with all other district school policies and procedures. This came up rather quickly because I think it was Friday or Saturday we got this information, and so I apologize that this wasn't in your packet because of the fact that it came up so quickly, and they're trying to, if the board approves this, they would like to apply for the license. For the license, to be the licensee. A couple of things that I do want you to, first, I just want you to have the opportunity to talk about it as to how you feel about it. This does not allow individual, if I rented it for a family wedding, it doesn't allow for that. It has to be, the law right now is specific that it has to be a nonprofit organization that has been a solid organization for, it's either 3 or 4 years or longer. There's several stipulations in which to do this, and all of that would be followed in order to make this happen. The second thing, besides the discussion that I want you to have, is that if you decide that you want to vote on this, you can waive the second reading if you want to. And I have that verbiage in the agenda if you wish to do that and to just approve it so that it's a little bit more timely. Or you could approve a first reading and bring it back on June 28th at the second meeting to make a final decision, to think about it if you so wish. So you'll notice a couple of agenda items, and we can talk about those when we get there, but that's why there are those two amendments to the agenda this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to Chair Nystrom, and maybe you have something else to add because I know you're getting a lot of these emails as well. Mm-hmm.
So when we originally started to plan for the Performing Arts Center, Scott Likens was very involved, and some of the other groups like CLC. CLC already I believe serves alcoholic beverages at their,
They don't.
They have.
No, they do not.
They did one time
In
when
my
I was there.
time there, I know there was one time an exception was made,
oh, okay,
Okay.
but that opportunity existed to make that exception.
okay.
And I think that was tied to the programming that we provide, right, with the wine making.
No,
or
this time
anything
it was a
like
contract, it was similar to this, it was a licensed provider, it was, I believe Prairie Bay came in and provided the service that night.
And they went through this
It was a
license.
concert. I was at this concert. I can't remember what concert it was, but they had wine there.
Yep.
I was kind of surprised. Like, oh.
So there, LAMF is one of the organizations, and they have patrons that would like to have a glass of wine, during the intermission, let's say. It is also a fundraiser for them, as it would be for other nonprofits, and that's why I can see they wrote it this way. The thing that we have to balance is, do we want to allow alcohol sales on a school property, even if there's no school in session? So, and I've had many conversations with Scott Likens about this, and he understands the dilemma that we're in. But quite frankly, he has really researched it, and we've gotten to this point where the city is saying to him, we believe that a liquor license would be given to you. And as Lane said, they can only have a temporary liquor license. And if anything would get out of hand, because of that liquor license, they are answerable to the city of Brainerd and also to us.
Well, and we're requiring them to have a law enforcement agent on site. You don't have to, but that was something that we felt was an applicable ask.
Couple questions. The first one, I don't see anything in here about modifications to the certificate of insurance that an outside user would have to do. I mean, what does our legal think about the landscape of our overall liability? Or has that even been discussed? I have to believe it's been discussed.
Yeah, we discussed it, and we need to talk with our insurance about it as well if they think we need to, but our legal counsel felt that the liability needs to be more on them.
Clearly,
Whoever
right,
owns
but so the shape of what that certificate of insurance and the parameters around it would potentially need to be modified
Correct.
to cover the additional risk and shift it away from the district onto the nonprofit entity and their insurer,
Correct.
right?
I can say that the limits that are in here are similar to what I've had to cover at other entities in town before. You know, this $1 million, $2 million, that's what's been required of me as a nonprofit at like NP event space, for example, so.
And then where did the $1,000 come from?
That was just a number that we talked about today when we were meeting with our legal counsel about if you have money up front to cover it, and then if there isn't any issue or anything like that, then it just comes off their rental fee.
Yeah, I was just wondering where the actual number came from.
And you don't have to have it. We just were trying to put some parameters in place that tighten this up a little
Well, if
bit.
anything, I would be more concerned it's too small.
And that's fine too.
But I mean, a
This-
beverage is a beverage,
this
so
was
if we have
totally
beverages and they spill it in the
Corey and
carpet,
me
it's still cleanup is
Working with the
cleanup.
lawyer today. Yeah.
Can I ask what how does it work, the studio?
That would be like the
area?
black box theater, because that, a lot of times will have could have meals, it could, those kinds of things. But we want to make sure that it stays out of the auditorium, that it's in the area where the floor, it's easy
Right.
to clean up. We're not allowing food and beverage in the auditorium, so it would just be in that.
Mezzanine in the lobby and the black
Correct,
box.
yeah.
And as we think out of the box on this facility, that was brought up. This is a community thing. Actually, we probably will have a committee that is made up of community members from the music and arts and other people in the community. And they're asking us, can this be an independent zone when school will be in session in the winter, but where it can be treated differently, and I understand that.
Another thing that they're asking for is in the north parking lot, and I don't quite understand that. So
I think he would have it in the lobby.
For the festival specifically?
Yes.
Well, that's because you're gonna have breaks in between the different events that are going on, so I'm sure they have
So
things
people
they
can
set
go
up out in the
outside.
parking lot.
But too, I mean, the
But
lobby
that's-
is big enough, and we have these carts,
Yeah.
these beverage carts.
I mean, as long as legal is aware it's an extension of the facility, I suppose, but.
Right. And you can add that in here. We did our best today to make this happen so that it gave you something to discuss.
Was there talk about that this would only be allowed during non-school hours and
We
like
did bring,
where other big
I did
athletic
bring that up
events
to
are
him,
happening?
and he said that earlier in the policy itself, it really addresses pretty much, I have to find it again, but the time frame, because it's, the policy itself addresses mostly out-of-school time. So, because I brought that same thing up, and he said, you don't need to add that in here because your policy already addresses it well enough, and I can dig for it.
Do you have the latitude, Lane, to decide when you would and wouldn't approve this for any organization? Or if we offer this?
Can we make that a
and
board
Brainerd
decision?
You can make that a board decision. The other thing is that they have to get the license
Right,
from
they
the
have to
city.
apply to the
So
city to get the
they
license,
have
so
to
maybe it
fill
should apply to
within-
us to
live
get
within the
approval to do the
criteria.
event.
I guess that's what I'm asking is what order does this happen in? Does the entity ask for permission from the school district and then apply for the license from Brainerd?
It would be in our policy, and so they would just go to the city of Brainerd, ask for the liquor license.
Well, it does say in here, with the superintendent's prior written approval.
Yeah, you'd still oversee it.
I'm not in support of this at all. Not interested in having alcohol at our high school. But that's my thought.
From where I sit, the couple thoughts or questions is, if this organization wasn't needing, or the organization that's coming to us for this wasn't needing this before, if they did the same thing at Tornstrom, why do they need it now? The other piece is probably more significant to me is that I don't see a way that I would feel comfortable bringing alcohol into a facility that houses our students. I believe that it is very possible for an individual to drink responsibly. However, for many of our students that our teachers walk through daily, alcohol for them and in their lives is very much a destroyer. And I think we have to be cognizant of that this transcends simply a fundraiser for an organization, which I completely understand. But this is also consistency for our youth, and the school being the one safe place that they don't have to see somebody standing inside those big windows tipping back a drink. I don't feel comfortable with it, and I can't support it.
I would like to just make one clarification in that this topic has come up dozens of times since this referendum passed. And I think we just kept putting it off because, well, let's just see when it happens. And for a while, we thought that they had to go get a change in the law and some of those kinds of things, but that was for something different. And so that's the only clarification that I'll have, is that honestly, I have dealt with this way more than I've wanted to deal with it since April 10th of 2018.
Well, and we actually addressed it in September of 2020, though, per our current policy. We addressed it then and said no.
You know, we did have a precedent for this. About 5 years ago, we had an organization that wanted to serve. They have a beer garden down at the fireworks, and they would have had it set up and it would have been roped off. And we got a lot of feedback from the community that said they were very even though school wasn't in session and it was on the lower site. And so we said no. And I think that was the right decision.
And I have told people many times, this was a school bond referendum. Yes, it was question 3 that it was going to be more of a regional performing arts center, but it still was a school bond referendum. And so I said, I'm not going to lead this charge, but we're at a point where we just have to have this discussion.
Well, while I appreciate the position of both Director Blacklance and Director Haglund, provided we get the right guardrails around it, I would not be keen on parking lot, same as I wouldn't have with a beer garden,
Yeah.
but confined in a tightly controlled space, which is cordoned off literally from the rest of the school. So for that evening, for example, it becomes a self-contained environment. It really isn't part of the school, it's a community performing arts center. I think it increases the opportunity for these organizations to generate revenue. It might allow us to tweak how we do the fees for those events and thereby offset some of our operational costs for the facility. So if it's got guardrails around it, I would be in favor of it.
Ruth and Jana?
I have very mixed feelings, so I would like to actually table this for one more meeting, since it just came up. And just think about it some, and maybe we could even do a Survey Monkey or something out there, because I hear you both, and it is a school facility first and foremost, so.
Just that I can
But
really
I've also-
appreciate the other side of it for sure.
Yeah, and but I've also had a lot of friends and acquaintances come up to me and push me a little bit on this, so, yeah,
I also think we need definitive clarity on liability and all of those different things to make sure we're bulletproof.
Yeah.
This Lakes Area Music, they don't charge a fee to attend, right? Or do they, to get in?
It's
They've never-
like a free will offering,
So
yeah.
what if they were concerned about fundraising, what if they charge $3 to get in?
Yeah.
Instead of having to sell a glass of wine?
Well, and this year they are ticketing, and they're asking for a suggested free will offering of $20 when you get those tickets. So a lot of people will now start to pay for their tickets.
Yeah, I just don't like being associated with fundraising,
Right.
selling alcohol in our high school.
Right.
It just doesn't sit well with me at all.
I
I
agree.
don't know how to do a Google Monkey, and
Oh.
my friend
Then maybe that's not
Corey
even
isn't
the
gonna
right
be
thing
here
to
to
do,
help me
'cause how
with
do you-
that.
How do you even
How about
explain
if
this?
the dispatch will do a story and people will comment? That's what happened last time.
Well, you're gonna hear from 8, 10 people or something. It's
Okay.
not gonna sway my
If
thought
we're
at all.
taking-
Corey, could you help me put one on the website where people could go on the website and they could just vote? Yes, no,
Yeah.
Do we really want to open
I
ourselves up
wouldn't
to
even
that?
do that, no.
Anything?
We did that with naming our art center, and we
good
got
point.
Yeah.
7
Well, we
people
didn't
there.
I don't know that we opened it up to the full community survey.
Well, but we asked the community to give us your ideas and
Oh,
thoughts.
absolutely, on names. I guess I see that
Yeah.
as different. I just don't think we want to get in the business
I agree
on
with you. I
taking
would
the
go back to
temperature.
something Tom said a few meetings back about Get Your Zibby, which was, at some point, we have to take accountability for the fact that each one of us represents the community.
Yep.
So we have to listen to the people that come to us, weigh that, and come back and apply that judgment individually.
And as Charles said, we also represent the children, and what message do we send if some of them are going by in a car and see all these people drinking? And I'm sure some people will mill outside too,
They
drinking.
might actually be there at the event.
They might, yeah.
They might be.
Yeah, there are children that come.
I think that
Oh,
as,
yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
as we move forward as a board with all our decisions, and I know we all know this, but we need to keep in mind students first. That's why we're here. And if we look at one student that was negatively impacted by this, it's one too many. And I just question us even moving forward with this discussion. It's definitely I appreciate the effort they put into it.
Yeah.
In figuring this out, I appreciate that, and I definitely appreciate the organization. But I can't see this being okay as an advocate for students.
They can still sell soda, sparkling water, but just not alcohol.
This is a moneymaker for local businesses if they wish
Yeah.
to go out and have dinner beforehand or
Yep.
afterwards or something too. It could be a real boost for our downtown Brainerd to provide opportunities as well. And
Yeah, exactly. So,
Doesn't sound like you have enough
so I would
votes
say,
here for doing it, so I just
so then,
let it die on the table and.
The other thing is we have
can
to
bring
vote
it
on
up if-
11.
No,
Oh, we don't have to do any of that?
Well, this is, the discussion we're having right now is on 12, is it
Yeah.
not?
It's on number 12, it's not
Okay.
on 11
So
either.
in theory, we could have a motion to not allow this to go forward for further discussion, or to go forward for discussion. And that would settle the issue at least,
Okay.
right? Wouldn't it settle it tonight?
Sure.
If,
Do you want to make that motion?
yeah, I would move that we approve
first
further
reading.
discussion.
So the first reading.
No, you're not doing the first reading, you're doing
No,
further.
there's stuff in there that I think it needs to be revisited. I think we need further evaluation and discussion, so maybe we're tabling it. But
I think you're tabling it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we almost have to because we can't approve it the way it's written right now. I don't think anybody at this table is completely comfortable with that.
You can rewrite it though, because it's a regular meeting, so if you want to do that, you can rewrite the motion and not have what we have.
But it's my feeling that if we have 3 people at this table that are uncomfortable with it, it's a moot point anyway.
Right.
And I don't feel that strongly about it that I would dig in and try to change somebody's mind.
Right,
I totally get where Directors Blacklance and Hagelin are coming from, 100%. So,
And in 7C, it says,
Sounds like it's dead.
vaping devices, paraphernalia, illegal substances, and alcoholic beverages are prohibited on all school facilities. So it's already in the policy. We don't have to do anything other than table this tonight.
Or you can say, number 12, approval of the first reading, ta-da, and then I'll decline it. You can all vote against
then
it,
it does not go forward.
and it
It
doesn't move
is
forward.
simply, if there isn't a motion, it dies.
Or
Yeah.
it
Somebody
dies for
wants
lack
to
of a
make
motion.
a motion,
I
and you
think
gotta
the
have a
only-
second.
The only way we need action on it is if anyone feels
There's a
strongly
motion.
that this needs to come back at the next meeting, but if nothing happens, then it dies on its own.
That's it. So if the chair entertains a motion and no motion is forthcoming, there is no vote, therefore it's
It
tabled
dies,
indefinitely.
Then it
even
dies.
without a second.
Correct.
So does anyone want to make a motion? Hearing none, it dies for lack of a motion.
Okay.
So I think that's wonderful. I mean, it sends the right message to the community, but also our students. I know Lakes Area Music Festival will be disappointed, but they can figure something else out. Oh, now we go to informational. Business Services Report, Marcy Lord.
Good evening, I'll keep this quick. There was an update sent out by MASBO, which is a group I'm part of on the legislative session. They did reach final agreements on ag, broadband, and a couple other things, and they're very close on the E12 bill. So keep your
great.
fingers crossed that they'll have that done by, hopefully, before I can present the budget to you guys. But if not, we'll just go with our what-ifs. So, and then, so as I said, in the next meeting, we'll do the budget. And then I did do an audit RFP, so at the next meeting, we'll also be approving the engagement letter for the audit. And that's it.
Okay, next we have Superintendent's Report, Lane Larson.
All right, I'm going to make this very quick tonight because I really want the majority of our discussion to be about the transportation contract so that we can get some guidance as a district leadership team on how to move forward. Just a couple of things, if you look at the dates and such again, I think you can see that we've got a lot of fun things going on during the months of June and July. I think the biggest thing is that next week, our administrative team is going to be spending 3 days at the Leadership Conference at Grandview, sponsored by Sourcewell. And we are really looking at doing a lot of work on strategic planning right now. It just seems like there's so many initiatives, and we need to sit down and prioritize what's truly important and how we want to move forward and bring forth some of that information to the board so that we're all moving in the same direction. And so even some of the questions tonight about we haven't had comments, well, part of that is that we need to get together as a district administrative team to talk about where do we stand on this? How are we going to present and move forward and ask you to come along with us and so on and so.
Is that part of the conference segment, strategic planning, or?
What they do is they give us all of Monday to work individually as your school.
Oh,
And
so as a
then-
group, you're gonna work on? Okay.
Yep, so it'll be our entire administrative team that will be sitting there, and this is like the most wonderful conference that our school gets every year, and Sourcewell is so good about supporting that. Then they bring in some best practice instructors the next day to do some training on professional development. Then we get some more time to work. And then on Wednesday, they have some more things. But Sourcewell is really doing some nice supports for helping to find teachers to fill some of the difficult positions that we're having to fill within our region, and to provide supports there. They're even some of the equity pieces, they're helping to give us some research-based guidance on what are best practices and how to move forward. And so, but they do so much for us. And so once again, we're just really appreciative that we have that 3 days. Other than that, I think all of the dates, you guys can, it's all kind of all review. I'm looking forward to June 28th to having some more conversation and to do some more action. But the thing that we really want to talk about today is, as the board might be aware, we have had many meetings. We have a transportation contract. Norby, I'll have you and maybe Heidi come up to the mic. We've had many meetings this year trying to get ready for having our contract ready, which starts July 1 of this year. And we've spent a great deal of time on this, and I know Norby is prepared to kind of give a little bit of background on that, but we feel like language items, we met with Reichert's again last week, and we got a lot of our language items complete, but there still are some concerns that they have and some concerns that we have, and we would like just to get some guidance on, do we look at a 2-year contract? Do we look at a 4-year contract? What is the board comfortable with? And so I think with that, we'll turn it over to Heidi and Norby and talk just a little bit about the work that has been completed.
Yeah, I think you covered kind of the basics of where we were at. You know, a few of you were present. Director Boyles and Director Blacklance was in on a couple of them conversations. And the verbiage we pretty much agreed to on they did agree to everything on it mutually with the district. So, and I think we're good to go there. There was just concern with the 4-year or a 2-year. I know Reichert's would prefer to have a 4-year contract, solid. It works good for their bank and other things. So, however, just some of the conversations that went on more with our extracurricular trip seemed to be, you know, the ability to provide them and different things like that. That seemed to be where I think people, a couple on our team got nervous about it, and going with a solid 4-year. Some of the options that we have there are to go with a 2+2, if Reichert's would agree to that. You know, that at the end of 2 years, we could roll it into renewal if, you know, we'd have to talk to more an attorney about it, but what I'm gathering is that we'd be able to go into the next 2 years if, you know, both are still in agreement. So I think that would be more of a favorable one as far as what I would propose, but the other thing would be to just stick with the 2-year, and I don't know if they would sign into that or not, but other options. There is a clause in the contract that no matter what length that we would have it in there, that if either party is in violation of the duties of the contract, they're given 30 days notice to correct the cause of the complaint, or the contract can be terminated. So there again, if we're not getting fulfillment, you know, we'd have that. So I don't want to add in there anywheres, but yeah, it should.
Our biggest concern continues to be having routes filled. So in our meeting, there was expression about concerns of starting 22 drivers short. They're just starting an active campaign right now to try to recruit drivers. So, and that's a statewide issue. Just seems to be a little bit more significant here with we really discussed at length in our last meeting, what efforts are they doing to try to recruit and retain those drivers. So I think our biggest area of concern, like we said, is the fulfillment of routes. When we talk about then those trips, they wanted to limit the number of trips that they're taking out. It's very difficult when we have very busy varsity athletic schedules and activities, and Lane was very articulate in our meeting discussing that our job is to provide opportunities for our students and to create those opportunities, ensure that they can get there to and from. Their job is to make sure the transportation to those opportunities are supported. So I think that's where the biggest concern lies, is being able to meet the needs of our students in our district.
And I would like to go off on what Heidi said in that last year with COVID, we were down 11 routes. And now we know that there have been some other bus drivers and such that have retired or whatever, and they're looking at the need for 22. And we're really concerned about committing to too long of a period of time if we can't fill those routes. And we really need to have all of our routes filled. We need to make sure that we're providing the opportunities that our kids deserve and that our families deserve. And but we initially talked about a 4-year, and I think we're all feeling a little bit more uneasy about it because of the driver shortage, and we might need to do something else. And we're also concerned, we're really happy with the marketing plan they've got in place. They put a lot of thought and energy into it. They're just getting it started, but even once they get candidates, it takes at least a month to get them licensed and ready to drive. And that's really putting us in a very tight timeline to get ready for school the end of August.
How many routes do we have?
Currently, we're running 54 routes, gen ed routes. We do plan on expanding that up to approximately 60, give or take a few. We're not going to add them all right back in, because I do think we had a little bit of overinflation, just ridership. Parents are securing that bus card just in case, and then so some of them just haven't renewed it over this last year. But so we'll kind of play that one by ear and grow them. They're coming in though, so.
Do you want to talk about special ed routes too?
Yep, and our special needs routes, currently we're running 17 of them. We would like to expand that though by at least 1 or 2, because they're getting tighter on the bus. We want to have a route shorter, not longer. Especially in the special needs, they just don't tolerate, some of them don't tolerate a real long bus route. So we do want to grow a couple there, but that's just, kind of where a flag is comes right down to the driver shortage. But as Zabrainer want to expand, I think we'd love to see that happen and expand our program. So that's kind of where a little bit of the caution comes in.
So what are you asking of us tonight?
Kevin and Charles, do you have anything you want to add? You've sat in on a lot of those meetings.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think I've sat in on all of the meetings for the last probably 3 months. And I don't disagree with anything that the 3 of you have said thus far. I do believe that it's probably not in the best interest of the district from a risk management perspective to get embroiled in a long-term contract. I don't think it would be a problem if we had a contract with like a 2-year contract with an additional 2-year option that already has the pricing built in, as though it were a 4-year contract to give us the ability to theoretically pick up that option and continue on with the existing transportation contract. Then at least that might give them, that's a bit of a compromise for the Reichert's folks. So in the meetings that I've been in, they've been, I think they've made really good faith efforts, in my opinion, to try to meet us on some things. And I think if you had the ability to sit in one of those meetings, if you're a member of the community, what you would see is a whole bunch of people taking an impossible situation and trying to make something possible out of it on both sides. So in no way, as we talk about the limitations and concerns that we have about Reichert's, is that an indictment of their efforts to try to do whatever, especially on a go-forward basis. Are there things that they could have done differently over the COVID period? Probably. but we can't do anything about that now, so there's no point in talking about it. So to Superintendent Larson's point, they, in the last meeting, they were very forthcoming with some new strategies that they have to try to recruit drivers and to raise awareness. But I think due to the fact that we know that at the moment, if we had to start school tomorrow, they are woefully short on drivers, that doesn't make me really excited about signing a 4-year contract with them at this point. And then the trips thing, I don't know where we ended up on that because I had to step out of that meeting. But when we went into the last meeting with them, we had 8 areas of substance that we had to hammer out that we were still far apart on. That Norby did a really good job of pulling all that together, and we definitely solved 7 of the 8. Yep. So we're down to just that one relative to trips, which I think we can work out as well. Yep. So those are my thoughts.
Oh, apologize. Where I sit is I feel uncomfortable with where we're headed into even this fall in terms of just like it was mentioned, the amount of drivers they don't have. I'm excited about their plan, but at this point it's still plan. And more importantly, again, I'm concerned about our students with the discussions that we've had. Well, I believe Reichert's is a wonderful organization, and I do believe that they really want what's best for our students. So that isn't in question, but I am concerned about any conversation about either restricting student opportunities, extracurricular or academic, but also, more importantly, concerned about the idea of even having to constrict or to downsize some of those opportunities, which to me is not acceptable. We should be growing it, not constricting. So that's a significant concern about from where I'm at. And then also one thing I'd like to add is, and this is probably just a little bit more about the overall relationship moving forward between the two parties, is I believe that the processes and how it's going, I worry that it's exceptionally taxing to our staff, to the talent that we have, spending a lot of time in these meetings. I'm not comfortable with that, to have to bring the individuals in, Lane and Heidi and Norby. I think you do a good job, but I just have some concerns about that relationship that's there. I think we need to expect more. As I guess one of Lane's 6 bosses, that's one of my concerns, is that we shouldn't be having Lane in these meetings all the time to deal with this. We can't allow our team to be taking their eye off the ball, which is our students. And I know that transportation does equate into students as well, but that's a concern I have. So where I sit is I'm probably a little bit more rigid, saying 2 years is good, and let's just figure that out. Although Kevin, I appreciate your thought, and now I could probably get on board with what Kevin's saying as well, that maybe looking at if the 2 years go well, then maybe just easily move into a 4 as an option. I could feel comfortable with that, but I in no way feel comfortable with 4 years right now.
And I would concur with that last statement for sure.
Mm-hmm.
How's the contract structured? What happens when they don't deliver on what is promised? Is there any reimbursement back to us? Are we paying per route that's running, or are we just paying this blanket contract whether these routes are filled or not?
We did just put language in the contract that said that we can fine them or not pay for those roads. But actually, I believe there's a fine, isn't there?
Yep, there's quite a few safeguards in there, and the main one would be the 30-day notice to rectify it, that, you know, if we aren't getting district's needs met, that we can.
And that's under the existing contract, right? There's a fine in there, but we have not levied those fines in the past.
We have not. We've worked very diligently with Rikers to try to problem solve, to try to.
Yeah, I mean, we tried not to make it overly punitive to them as they've been scrambling. And
we've condensed routes, we've combined routes. We've done many things to try to collectively work together on making sure that our students' needs are met. But that's been very taxing.
Again, it needs to be stated that we understand that they're encountering the same issues that other employers in the area are encountering. in that with a combination of federal unemployment benefits and just the general job market in this area as a whole and the way that a bus driver job is structured, it is really hard for them to find people. But we can't care about that, right? That's the first time our kids deal with the school district in the morning, and it's the last time they deal with us in the evening, I think, to Charles' point. If we're really focused on the students, I mean, at some point, we're gonna have to figure it out. But to lock ourselves into a long-term arrangement and not put a, sort of a carrot out there for them to reach for, that's where I feel the option would be the carrot for them. That you say, okay, we have a 2-year deal for you to prove that you can sustain this. And if you can't sustain it, then we have an out after that 2-year period. Obviously, if you have a material breach of the contract as a whole, we can get out anytime we want.
What another concern is, adding back to the taxing of our staff, is that we end up pulling individuals from the ISD 181 team, Norby, or others, to drive buses. And from my experience, you overtax or you continue pulling people outside of their lane that they're hired for, then you begin to lose staff, or that's a concern, and I don't want to do that. So
2 questions. What is their marketing plan, and what is their plan if they don't get enough drivers?
So their marketing plan, they went back to pre-COVID. So one of the things they talked about is, the Crow Wing County Fair is actually where they secured quite a few drivers. One of their marketing strategies was a lot of people are intimidated by the size of a bus or just even taking that overwhelming. So they talked about having opportunities for people to basically get in and try driving just to get over that initial fear. One of the big pieces they discussed too was there's four exams that an individual needs to pass prior to being able to even drive. They're struggling with being able to educate that potential employee. So they're looking at retired teachers or other people that are very good at taking content and breaking it down, because right now they just basically hand a manual and the person goes home. So they're really looking at what are ways that they can assist. They've been working legislatively because testing stations, there's not a testing station available. They've been closed. They were meeting with Hubbard Radio. They're trying to look at some radio ads and things like that. So things that we haven't necessarily seen from them in the past, they're gonna really try to bolster. LC Bear, if you haven't met him, he's the individual from Rikers we probably work the most directly with on a daily basis. He's very creative with problem solving, and he put forth some of those ideas. But hopefully he's talking about the market. We also have CLC, so he talked about there's a group of college students and things like that that are looking for some of that break up in the day, driving early morning, looking back in the afternoon. That's a good schedule. When you're taking college classes. So they're looking at those routes, ways to fulfill those routes with drivers. What is the contingency plan if they don't? In our meeting, we discussed this, and it's what we've done already. We look at surrounding neighbors, and we start to look at how do we fulfill those needs.
Or they?
We have.
But
and I would say, again, working directly, LC's been part of that, of trying to figure out who can we connect with, who has an available bus. So that's been a very collective.
Just for clarity, their backup plan is what? That they're gonna ask you guys to get involved with calling the neighbors and finding people?
Yep, they identify that would be a very collective effort.
So.
I'm sure they're motivated, and I appreciate that, and I do not want an adversarial relationship at all, but I do just want to say that, we can't have you guys expending your extra time, resources, and still paying money for a contract when we're not getting what we're paying for. I just think we have a tight budget too. We can't be paying for things that we're not
thing
getting.
I'm not 100% sure has resonated through the meetings, although it's been said by almost all of us that have participated in them, is this is a new world, and because of the situation that they're in, they're going to have to think differently. And they're also, the contract in terms of what they net out of it won't be as lucrative as it was 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But name a business that's not fighting that.
We did discuss in the meeting, to answer your question, Director Hagelin, looking at if there's portions that we're consistently seeing unfilled, then making the effort on our end to subcontract that. So if we start to see that pattern, yes, there's fines and there's things that can be done, but if it's a repeated pattern, is there a certain portion that we can take and move out that then frees up resources for them to fulfill what still remains?
But if it's subcontracted and we need to go to a neighbor or something, we need to be able to verify that they're gonna have it's gonna be permanent, that they don't just pick it help us out for a day, and then, you know, that's not fair to them either, if there are neighbors that are willing to help. But the fact of the matter is, we cannot go through another year like last year. And we're nervous because there's 22 openings right now that aren't filled, and we are 2 months from school starting.
I mean, this isn't just a COVID issue. This has existed pre-COVID. I think
did
COVID just
exist, yeah.
exacerbated the issues we were having.
Yep.
And it's taken, I look at staffing, when you just look at trips and shuttles and things like that. If you watch Derek Hendrickson at Forest View, again, he and LC came up with a creative solution, but it's taking a lot of manpower on the other end to get those solutions to move forward.
Yeah, I think COVID just made an existing problem show up, you know, magnified it hugely here, so. But the marketing looked good, so, I mean, if them plans go into action and they get results out of it, you know, that will be our best avenue, but.
When did we put the RFP out? Was that in March?
February.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I at best would be in favor of a 2-year, but I think that we even formally start something by January or December of the year before, because I think unfortunately right now we're so far into it, I don't know how any other bus service could try to pull this off and get ready. But I'm also very concerned the day that they don't have a driver, that they're not looking at you guys for help us. That's the plan I would like to see. The marketing plan that I've heard, I'm gonna say it's at best a 50-50 shot that they're gonna fill half of the positions. Radio ads, the county fair, good luck. They've gotta have a solid plan. If we don't get drivers, here's what we're going to do, and it can't be coming to you two for help.
And that's what we've done, is we rerouted and combined.
And that's really why we're here, because originally when the RFP came out, we were looking at a 4-year commitment. And we, you know, and we didn't get everything solved in which to make it happen. And we just can't do this for 4 more years. We can't do it for 1 more year.
No,
it's so taxing. And I'm gonna just say a little bit about what I said the other day. You know, we're a great big school. We are in a small, lovely community, like a small town feel, but we are a big school, and our kids need to compete with great big schools like the Elk Rivers, and that's where kids compete against. And the last couple of years, because we haven't had transportation, we've been minimizing the amount of middle school programming and opportunities for those kids to compete. Well, those are our feeder programs. We can't be destroying our feeder programs. We need to be building those feeder programs so that our kids can be competitive with the size schools that they need to compete as they move forward. And we can't keep cutting away. We need to grow to provide those opportunities for our children. And we're just nervous about that.
We've accommodated where we can. Like you said, we've condensed some junior high activities. We've altered start times. We've altered competition days, more so at the, again, middle school, because that's the flexibility that exists. It doesn't exist in a high school schedule. But that was Lane's point too. That's very frustrating to continue to do.
Okay, so I'm here. Formal motion for this, or is this just you're looking for
We
advice?
just need some
kind of?
guidance
Okay.
to bring forward to you on the 28th.
And I wouldn't be in favor of a renewal 2-year. I wouldn't even mess with that right now.
Just a 2-year?
That's what I would do. Like, because you're gonna burn up more time trying to get the 2+2, and then, you know, if we repeat anything close to last year, we've got to get started on replacement.
What happens then
advance.
if they don't take the percentage that we're at because we're down to a 2-year and not a 4-year? Right now, we're at 3 and 3. But that was based on a 4-year. And so,
I think financially you figured that out, but to me, it would be absolutely.
I guess I
not
don't
right.
see a risk to having an option in there, because we can opt out Just like an athlete contract, we
I
can
think
opt
that
out day
opt-out's
one.
gonna be we're gonna spend thousands and thousands of dollars trying to opt out on a 30-day, because there's so many things. And I think you're gonna struggle and fight it, and it'll just be a disaster. Provide great service, we'll get it renewed well in advance to expiring. Service is the way it is, we've got to get started a lot earlier.
Okay.
I agree
That's
with
my
Tom.
thought.
You know, they have something to prove to us. We're their primary customer, and they have simply dropped the ball. And they have to recruit these 22 bus drivers. We should not be in that position. And they used to run this great company where they always feel, and I understand it's tough, but they're in the bus business. So I agree with Tom, 2 years, and let's see how they show us how they can provide service. Anyone else?
No, I agree with that, and I think, to me, I stand behind it more so from a staffing perspective. I just think we have to show that we support you guys, and we don't expect you to bang your heads against the wall for
Yeah.
4 years, guaranteed, so.
Thank you.
Okay, is that good enough?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your support.
Is Tim speaking tonight? Okay. Okay, you see the future meetings. Is there any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
We'll be adjourned.
That was a